Good morning, I'm Linda, and I just wanted to pop in and talk to you today about what happened when I began to say no. It was a challenging process, and if you go back over the last 2 days' videos, which is day 10 and day 11 of the May challenge of 31 days of soul care, both of which you can find on YouTube or my personal Facebook page, you'll see that we go through a process of learning how to say no, what happens with the power behind saying no, all the dynamics, what happens when we first begin to think about saying no, and then after that we go through the process of will I or won't I say no. And it takes time for the same thing to happen repeatedly for you to work out that you don't have a choice, you have to begin to say no. Because if you don't begin to say no, excuse me for a minute, it affects your life so much. It affects your health. It actually affects everybody around you. And what I found over time was that people don't like it when you say no because they want you to stay the same because they stay the same all the time. And that's okay. That's their choice to stay the same. But not all of us want more of the sameness. I don't know about you, but certainly in my family for generations, it's been a case of, one, we don't talk about our emotions, okay? And that's because nobody for generations was equipped to talk about emotions. It was very much, this is going back quite a number of generations, okay? And see if you can see this in your family as well. We were raised in, and they were raised in the manner that I've shown you how to do life. So as you grow up and you're raised, then you need to stay in that format of how I raised you, and then all will be well. Okay? And the problem is when we leave home, we then become free of certainly expectations that are around us that we have to live by. If you've come from a toxic family, we often have to live by those expectations to keep us safe. And certainly if you've come from a family that is highly dysfunctional and abusive, you will have to live by those expectations to keep safe. And your brain certainly lets you know to keep down that path so that nothing gets triggered and no anxiety happens, okay? But what I found for me was I reached a point where I had fulfilled the dream of my family, which is you get married, you have a job, you have a home, you have the kids, and it was like, okay, so what else is there? And I certainly examined over time that I didn't say no to my family. That would just have been the unthinkable. Now, and we have to be okay with that's just how our family was, and that's a process in itself for another video. But today, I really had it on my heart to talk to you about what happened when I began to understand I had to say no. I went through the processes as I've described in the video. There were lots of tears shed, there was lots of breathing done, lots of meditation and prayer, lots of discerning as to what was good, what wasn't, and in the end, for my own health, I had to say no. And there were as many reactions to me changing who I was as there are people. In my family, I had to take a step back from my family in order that I could work out who I am without all the overbearing, unspoken expectations that came with being with family. And for me, having Asperger's undiagnosed too at the time, there were actually a lot of unspoken things that I didn't understand either. So it was like crazy making for me because I'd get told, well, this is what I'd hoped you'd do, and I'd think, just ask me. But anyhow, on saying no, I found that some people ignored my no. and would just continue on their behaviour and cross my boundaries that I put in place. And that took a long time for me to say. It actually took quite a number of years for me to say to that one person, then, I'm sorry, we can't have anything to do with each other until you have had 2 years of health and fixing your toxic life. Did they like it? No. Was it better for my health and for my children's health? Yes. And that's the bigger picture. Or the bigger picture for me has always been what is best for my children and what is best for their emotional health. Okay? And it never has been what other people wanted or expected me to do. The outcome. There were other people who just backed right off, who didn't want to have the emotional conversations. At the time, I couldn't talk like I do now either, so I used to write a lot. I'd write letters. But there was never any response. And even when I asked for an apology because I was mistreated, then because of the generational family stuff, it wasn't, well, you're not going to, the response was nothing, because you're not going to get an apology from us when we feel that you need to apologise to us. You're the one who's done wrong. And it did my head in. I grieved for a significant amount of time, but I also wrote because what happens is you come to understand that you will never be able to change who they are. But we can change who we are. We can be who I am. And we can reach a place where we have no judgment for them. We just love on them for who they are as people. But we just choose not to have them in our lives all the time because they never want to have a bigger discussion about anything in life except what other people are doing. Now, if that person's happy having a life like that, then we have to honour their process and we have to let it go. And why do I say we have to? Well, your only other option is to keep these people in your life and keep being miserable. That's why there's a have to. I wish that we could all sit down and talk about our differences, our challenges, about when I have to say no. I certainly raise my kids that we have the hard conversations when I have to say no, when they have to say to me, no, Mum. They're allowed to say to me, and they're all adults, young adults now, they're allowed to say to me, well, no, that's not what I want to do, or I'm not available, etc., etc. And if we don't raise it, the generations that are coming after us, that we do have hard emotional conversations, then how are we going to grow as a human race into a place of kindness across the world, caring across the world, into a space where children that come after us know that we've broken barriers in order that they will have a different lifestyle, and that they're allowed to look at how we raise them and say, well, no, I want to do better as well. And it all comes from being willing to say no to toxic, dysfunctional relationships that are not serving either party. See, the people that I had to say no to, they probably weren't happy with me either. Well, they weren't happy with me, let's face it. And that had to be okay. But now we're in a space where we see each other every now and then, and there's kindness and there's caring. But I choose not to go back into that situation full time, because I know that I have a life set in another direction. I love them with all my heart. But first of all, I had to do me. And look, none of this life is easy. But when we do it with people who are growing as well, it becomes doable and loving. When we do it with people who are real people, realistic about the challenges of life, and we love and support each other, it is doable. And there are plenty of people in this world who want to do life and do the hard stuff and do it together. Life is a learning process. We can't come out of childhood fully equipped to be able to do all of this. Okay, I've equipped my kids pretty well, but they are still going to have their own lessons that they need to learn, their own understanding of life, so that they can bring into life a better understanding for more people as well. You know, we've got to grow this for generations. Women and men have to be able to come out of abusive relationships too and heal. We've got to allow people to say no. And we've got to allow healthy boundaries between us all. We need to have these discussions. We need to have discussions about what no means to us. We need emotional clarification in our relationships. And we need relationships with people who are trustworthy too. That's another thing we'll cover. If I can't trust you with my heart, then I can't trust you with my life. And therefore, I need to keep you at arm's length. And that doesn't mean I don't enjoy who you are as a person. It doesn't mean that I don't spend time with you. It just means that I have steps before I let someone fully into my heart. Okay? Be willing to say no to the things that make you unwell. Okay? Be willing. And as we said in one of the first videos, we have to learn the words, I am willing. Okay, that's all for today. You can join the live conversation daily on my Facebook page. The link will be down below. You can comment below, you can subscribe, you can follow my Facebook page. It's public for lives. And you can always ask questions, okay? In order to be able to say no sometimes, we just need to be able to ask ourselves better questions. Okay, blessings and dreams, and I will talk to you soon. Bye for now.